Mai kako. Welcome to The Music Within, our podcast focused on dignity, beauty, and truth. We're recording here in the lovely Honolulu, Hawaii at Holy Family Life Office. Mahalo for joining us today. My name is Maile Aiu Domingo, and I am with Hamauʻiloko Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit whose vision is to uphold human dignity and build a culture of family. Since 2007, my partners in crime, Ed and Betty Coda, we've been executing dignity classes about sexuality. And it has been quite revealing. So today we get to continue that revelation. And my partner, Jimena Suarez.
Hi Miley, and hi everyone, and it's nice to be back and to our podcast. And I'm a part of an organization that is called Ama la Vida, and we started in Mexico, and now we're starting at our work here in Honolulu, and we work to protect the life of the unborn and his surrounding. We do podcasts, digital communication, conferences, natural family planning or fertility appreciation. We also have a prayer ministry, participate in 40 Days for Life, and many other initiatives also at the political level to protect the life of the unborn.
Awesome. So today's theme is healthy choices on hormonal contraceptions and the body. So Hime and I would like to welcome back Ed Coda. Hi, Ed.
Hi.
Today we're going to be chatting further about the biology and the genius of our body. And I think that we're just going to let Eddie loose.
Wow, thank you. This is so exciting. You know, I am Ed Coda, as they said, and I really want to start by saying that I'm not a doctor, but I do believe in science as a core for understanding the truth of the universe that God created. Over the years, my wife Betty and I have worked with many dysfunctional couples and families, and we truly believe that much dysfunction comes from simply not understanding the truth of how God created us. We're not simply created as non-sexed persons. That's a concept that we humans created to mainly combat maybe injustices, primarily in the workplace, and rightly so, but it's bad science and even worse spirituality.
True that.
No one is born just a person. From the very first moment, we hear it's a boy or it's a girl. In fact, male-female diversity is something we should celebrate and embrace. If one strand of your hair was left in a fiery car crash, they could tell if you were male or female.
Wow, that's amazing.
So let's pick apart this whole mystery of sexuality. First, let's make a distinction between nature and nurture. The nature aspect is what is hardwired and genetically coded into our being. It is our physiological maleness or femaleness. The nurture aspect is developed in relationship and expressed in terms of masculinity and femininity through the interactions of males and females. And over the last several decades, there has been a whole avalanche of studies that show the hardwired facts of our physiological differences. With brain scans and advanced imaging technologies, we can literally see and measure the differences in action. Basically, the entire male brain is organized differently than the female brain, and different parts develop in different sequence. We used to think that it was a simple case of left brain, right brain dominance, but we now know that some of what is on the left brain in males is on the right or on both sides of the female. Speech centers, for example, are on both sides in females. And so women typically will speak 24,000 words a day, while men only speak 7,000 words a day. Is that a surprise to any of you, especially you men? The male brain is very compartmentalized with something like on-off switches that make it easy for him to stay on task, never want to quit, and have a great gift for long-range planning. At approximately 26 weeks gestation, there's a type of chemical bath that you can imagine, which literally washes the male brain and kills off many of the connectors between the right and left hemispheres, leaving him very much lateral-brained. And I'm not saying he was brain dead. I'd like to make that point clear. That means that we can literally park in one area of the brain uninterrupted by the incomings, and it helps men make a plan and stick to it. Not only do the centers for spatial relationship develop earlier in boys than in girls, but it seems that men actually operate almost instinctively out of an area in the brain called the hippocampus to find their way or sense direction, unlike females who have to actually think about it using the cerebral cortex. Men don't expect to have to think about it. Both men and women can be equally successful at finding their way, but how they do it is so different. We've been in the same office for almost 10 years, but when we get out of the elevator, I immediately start walking toward the office, and 9 times out of 10, Betty will start walking in the opposite direction. And it's not that, she doesn't know how to get to the office. It's that we go into deep conversations going up the elevator, and when she gets out, she's not thinking about where she's going.
No, it's so true. I do the same thing. I get up and I have to look right side, left side. Where's the sign that says Coda Financial? and my boys, they're there, and I'm still reading the wall.
Yeah, this goes all the way back to the hunter-gatherer, primordial things where men just had to know how to get there and find the prey. In the male anatomy, most of the systems and organs are wired toward action. Even in the eye, a man's retina is thicker than a woman's, with a preponderance of M ganglions that function to track motion and direction through space. In a crisis, it causes surges to the limbic system, which literally have a man spring into action. And the same things that excite men are actually nauseous to some women. The female brain is not compartmentalized, but rather globally organized. There are also more connectors between the frontal lobes, and they travel back and forth between them faster. There's no chemical bath that destroyed them. Women take in information about 30% faster than men. Our senses are also tuned differently. For example, hearing in newborn baby girls is about 80% more sensitive than in baby boys in the range of sound where human voices lie. This difference actually increases with age, and that may mean that a teenage boy really didn't hear you ask him to take out the garbage, or that your husband never did hear the babies crying at night.
That was always a mystery.
Yeah. The female retina has a preponderance of P ganglions that function to interpret facial expressions, color, and texture. It's really funny. We've had a set of towels in our house now since we first moved in, and the men all call them brown towels, one of the basic colors, but they're actually a sort of purplish, maybe even mauve, that women can distinguish and men can't. We all know that most women can tell within minutes of entering a party who is mad at whom. She may mention it in the car on her way home, and of course we husbands are clueless. In the past, we thought that was attributed to some mysterious intuition, but in the actual truth, she can hear a whispered snide comment and see a sour facial expression that men do not detect. Scientists have literally tracked brain activity in the amygdala, which is the primitive area of the brain where both men and women experience strong emotion. However, with women, they also see a connection to the cerebral cortex, the location of the female language and speech centers, and that's why a woman can easily tell you what she is feeling and can empathize so well with others, whereas a man will naturally prefer to process emotions physically, going for a run, breaking a sweat, pacing back and forth in a waiting room. So many in our society fight nature instead of embracing it. They even go to the extent of having artificial hormones to physically change a perfectly normal functioning body. So the question remains, if you knew you were eating poison that might kill you to cure a certain medical problem you had, would you continue to eat it, or would you seek rather safe ways to cure that same problem? And I would like to read some excerpts from a study just released in January 2021 called Hormonally Active Contraceptives, Risks Acknowledged and Unacknowledged. Now, if you are into hormonal contraceptives, there's an insert that explains about blood clots, strokes, increased causes for cancer, and even death from taking them. But what this study pointed out to me, which blew my mind, are the numerous side effects that are not in the birth control pamphlet. And among those unacknowledged side effects are, get this, an increased risk of HIV transmission.
Wow.
And for combination contraceptives, breast cancer, cervical cancer, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, systemic lupus, erythematosus, depression, mood disorders, and suicides, especially among women 25 years of age and younger, in the first 6 months of use. Multiple sclerosis, interstitial cystitis, female sexual dysfunction, osteoporotic bone fractures, especially for progesterone-only contraceptives, and fatty weight gain.
Wait. These are effects that are not listed?
They're not listed at all. These are now, after 50 years of having contraceptives out there, a recent compilation of the effects that are greater in women who use contraceptives than the rest of the population. And because they're just a compilation so far, based on a more recent study, I'm sure at some point they're going to have to be listed on the list. But for right now, women don't even know that these issues exist.
Well, thank God you're bringing this to our attention and to the attention of the public. This is valuable information.
Yeah, and actually at the end of the study, it says women seeking birth control have a right to know about how to avoid these risks by using effective hormone-free fertility awareness methods. So they even give us a plug at the end on
awesome.
other possibilities.
Boy, having open-mindedness towards looking at fertility awareness methods is really, there's a great reason for us to pursue that, for us to make that available to people, and for us to have concerns about hormonal contraceptions and its effect on our body, and just the process that our body must do and go through. Wow.
Yeah, people who had smoked for years and years, until finally there was a positive link to some of the damaging side effects, then they started branding all of the harmful effects on cigarette packages. But it took many, many years, and I think we're about at that place now with hormonal contraceptives, where people are going to start suing companies for failure to list these kinds of damaging effects to the body, instead of just assuming that the medical community wouldn't do anything to hurt us.
You're right. The first contraceptives were made available in 1967-68, I believe.
Yes.
And so that's almost 60 years.
Right.
Holy smokes. Wow, Ed, you've brought so much wisdom to just the miracle of our body, and how when we introduce things foreign to it from a chemical substance, we really have to be careful of those consequences. I'd like to also bring to light some other scientific advances that we are now aware of regarding our bodies and our female bodies. I feel like when we talk about hormonal contraceptives, we're only talking about the woman. And what I get to share today will indicate how it actually affects not just women, but men. There is an amazing woman who teaches the biology of the theology of the body. She was the executive director of the National Office of Post-Abortion Reconciliation and Healing. She founded the Rachel Project, a ministry that serves post-abortive women, and her name is Vicki Thorne. I am honored to be one of her pupils, and I'd like to share on one of the lectures that she talks about something called pheromones. Pheromones are scent molecules of affiliation, perceived by pheromone receptors. These pheromone receptors sit in the front of the olfactory nerve. They are tiny, they are fragile, and they are hidden in those little pockets. Pheromone receptors communicate directly to the brain through a nerve called the terminal nerve. Those receptors communicate animal to animal and also human to human. Observations of the role of pheromones within the body play a huge role in the life of women, and it's really quite amazing. If a mother, for example, is in a room with other babies and you blindfold that mom, she can actually find her baby through pheromone communication. We can literally smell our babies, which I've always said, but I never really understood what I was saying. It's a kind of biological knowledge that we are only now beginning to scientifically document. And that's the reason is because the pheromone receptors were only discovered about 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Anthropologists have also discovered that infants have an innate biological knowledge as well. They can smell their mother's breast milk. If a newborn infant is placed next to two breast pads, one containing the milk of its mother and one containing the milk of another woman, the baby will actually turn its head and reach for the mother's breast pad. And science tells us that this is pheromone communication. Have you ever held a baby and then she cries?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's because you don't smell right.
Right.
You don't smell like mom. If, however, you are in the arms of another nursing mom, the infant won't cry as easily because she can sense that there is a source of nourishment nearby. My granddaughter is case in point. She's 5 months old. She's a great baby, but if she is away from her mom too long, she will turn and reach and look and seek. Where's her mom? And it's kind of funny because I'll be in my room playing with her, and my daughter-in-law will be maybe in the kitchen or playing music or something. And she'll just waltz in like right at that second when the baby starts realizing that mom isn't there. And she'll go, oh, she's probably hungry. And she just whisks up the baby, takes her, nurses her on the bed. And it's total biological knowledge. Like, even though she's in another room, they just sense this. And it's so powerful. Another example of this biological knowledge is when my son Josiah was born, he didn't cry. And I was amazed at that. And so they rested him on my tummy because we wanted him to remain connected to the umbilical cord for 45 minutes. And then over the course of the next 15 minutes, he wiggled himself from the bottom of my tummy all the way to my breasts.
Wow.
It took a lot of self-control, but I held my hands back just to see what would happen. And he literally latched himself onto my breast and began nursing without me using my arms to position him or prompt the nipple or anything. It was one of the most miraculous moments of my life. I could not believe what I was watching, and yet I feel like I wonder if that has anything to do with pheromone communication.
Yes.
Another observation of just human beings leads to an idea, a theory that they now call menstrual synchronicity. And before we started the podcast, we were yakking about this. This is something I think we all experience, but I never had a title for it. So now I have a title for it, menstrual synchronicity. When I was 14, I lived in a dormitory situation for 4 years. I lived in Kinauhale, an all-girls dorm up at Kamehameha schools. And I observed this theory in real life, that women will cycle with each other, and in particular, follow the cycle of one alpha woman. In high school, I remember how we all went to the beach as a whole class. And at Kamehameha schools, one class is hundreds of kids. A bunch of us would be in the water frolicking, and we would be looking around saying, hey, where's so-and-so and where's so-and-so? And then we're like, you see this pile of girls sitting together on a beach. They're all wearing black pants and leaning against each other because they can barely be alive. And then the rest of us girls, we look at each other, we're like, oh.
Oh.
Yep. It's like a knowing. And you kind of feel sorry for them because they can't get in the water, but then you get distracted and you start frolicking in the ocean fun. That was something I remember. And I also remember being the one on the beach where everybody else is swimming and I'm hanging out with a bunch of girls that also have black shorts on. Yeah. Body communicating through pheromones. Fascinating, right? But women don't only communicate via pheromone receptors. Women also gather pheromones from one another through touch, through clothing, through proximity. And in a dormitory situation, there's a lot of that going on. It's very similar to the kin expression in biblical times. The Old Testament term kin is actually a tribal term. They would refer to kinsfolk. Kinsfolk are actually relatives, not by blood, but by intention, because they purposefully chose to live together with each other for survival. There's a biological communication that enhances our survival and our offspring's survival. So on purpose, they became kin. They camped together. They caravanned together. They had their menstrual cycles together, and naturally, they birthed together. It was about being able to nurse their young together because it perpetuated their survival ability of the babies.
You know, there's another component of that, and that is the dead fish kiss. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Well, sometimes if you're on a date and you kiss a person for the first time, you either get an electric excitement or it's like, And it was labeled in the past a dead fish kiss. but it's the pheromones interacting with a person who will not protect you and your children and help you raise that family that causes the dead fish kiss. that literally is built in so that a woman feeling electricity on that first kiss will actually know that this guy is the one that she needs to pursue.
Fascinating. Our
And
bodies are fascinating.
Now that he's saying this, I don't know if it's related, but when my mom was pregnant, but they didn't know, it was the second kid. And one day my dad just passed out. He was in the army, and they were like in the morning they do these lines and they sing the anthem. He just passed out. He faded, and my mom was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So
This is totally related.
it is
Yeah.
related. And my mom, she was like, she didn't think that it was related, but then she started like throwing up and I'm pregnant. And she's like, for sure it's related. And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe, of course, they kiss in the morning, they kiss at night. So probably he was just getting her hormones. I don't know.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually,
Something
I will
was
lead
going on.
into that because we're going to be talking about that today. Absolutely. It is about this connectivity that we have on a pheromone communication, biological communication level. And it has to do with our smell. Not the kind of smell where we can smell food and we can smell flowers, but it's a sense of smell, pheromone smell. And so I don't know if you noticed, like if you're in a room, if you were blindfolded, could you tell if you're sitting next to a woman or a man?
Yes.
I always
Yeah.
can.
Yes.
I'm like, men smell.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for me, yeah. I know. Especially girl smell is very...
Yeah. Yeah, I can smell. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to say that on air. But but it's all these discoveries that we
Yes.
make, right? We notice about our body. And it's not like a book knowledge, but it's like a body knowledge kind of.
Right.
And it's just, well, anyway, there's a scientific term for that. It's called generic scent detection. And it has to do with how the pheromones communicate these kind of things. And one of the things that it does communicate, Hime, is exactly what you said, that when a man biologically senses that his wife is pregnant, his whole body chemistry changes. His pheromone system will communicate to start switching the endocrine system communication, and he will actually know before she knows that she's pregnant. And so your dad
That
fainting,
is so true.
Like,
having a biological
pregnant.
response.
like, I'm pregnant.
No, it's true.
I'm
It's
tired.
true. They do say that those kind of things happen, and they get. Let me see if I can find that part.
You know, we always thought it was because I was doing the charting that I knew before Betty did when it was a day we could conceive or not. But we mutually agreed to have intercourse on days when we could conceive. Yet, when she was pregnant, it was, I sensed it. And I get it now. I mean, I did not realize that. I thought it was just because I was watching the chart, but it definitely was something I sensed before the chart revealed it.
That is so cool. It is powerful, this knowing that we have over our body, and our not only our body though, like women's body and men's body can detect these things that
Yes.
are happening with each other. And one of the things that men can detect is they detect when they need to be near, when they need to be not hunting, I guess is the primordial term, right? They need to, their hormones will change so that they want to be near mommy and they want to protect and they want to provide, and they're not going to go off wandering. And it's all about this pheromone communication, which is just really quite fascinating. But it only happens in women and couples who are not on hormonal contraception. So that's really key. That's really key. When a woman is on contraceptions, however, hormonal contraceptions, her body is actually tricked into thinking that she is pregnant. So even though in her mind she's thinking, okay, I want to find a husband, her body will not seek it. Her body will seek actually something opposite of what she needs, because her body is operating on false information, false biological information. She doesn't have a child within. She's not pregnant.
Right.
But the pill is communicating that. So her pursuit of a life partner actually is going to lead her to the wrong partner choice. And actually what happens is she chooses a male that is biologically too similar to her and actually not compatible to her on a biological level. So let's say they get together, they get married, and then after a couple of years they decide they want to have a baby. They have problems conceiving. Why? This is a consequence of hormonal contraception in our society, because even if your spouse isn't the one on hormonal contraception, but your husband goes off and works with women who are on hormonal contraceptions, their pheromone receptors are kind of messed up. They're confused. And so anyway, so
Well, the woman is choosing the dead fish kisser.
yes, exactly.
That's it.
That's exactly what
that's
happens.
it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so she didn't have the right information when she was
Wow.
choosing. Just because of these hormones, they just block her.
So I don't know about you guys, but how many of you guys know a couple that got married, decided they wanted to start a family, so then they get off of the pill or other hormonal birth control, and well, first of all, they don't like each other. Because on that natural level, right, they're not compatible. They're literally not compatible. And so different things happen. There's no attraction. There's no electrical spark, like you say. You're kissing a dead fish, wandering eyes, and all these challenges.
What's wandering eyes?
You're biologically attracted to somebody else, because now you're not on hormonal contraceptions, but you're married, or maybe not married, but partnered with someone, right? And you're wondering, why do I not love this person anymore? Like, I'm talking on a physiological level. I'm not talking on a choice level.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have one girlfriend. She's like, I don't know what's wrong, but I don't want to be next to my husband. He smells. And then come to
Wow.
find out afterwards, she just got off of birth control. I didn't know it at the time, but anyway. So yeah, there are consequences. And like I said earlier, we've been exposing women to the pill since 1967. So scientists have labeled this concerning situation autoimmune compromised fertility. There's actually a name for it. And what that means is that the reproductive experts are greatly concerned about the long-term effect of hormonal contraceptions on just general human interaction, just male-female interaction. Because for a long time, well, forever, we depended upon this sort of biological knowledge to find our spouse.
Right.
And now it's chemically confused. Yeah.
That's so sad.
Here's another sad point. There's a man by the name of Alexander Sanger. He wrote a book. And in that book, I quote, he says, "The pill is horrendously bad medicine for the human race. in fact, for human reproductive history, because we were not told. We were not told about this concern that body knowledge is altered. Alexander Sanger is the grandson of Margaret Sanger.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
what life. I was just thinking, maybe they
So
are.
decades ago, they knew about it
They knew
and
everything.
still continued to release this to the public.
But it's amazing that he's healing his family, right? True, because he's saying the truth now.
No, that book was written decades ago
Oh, wow.
in the 1970s. So it was known, it just wasn't widely, the knowledge wasn't widely provided. But anyway, there were other anthropologists who observed the effects of hormonal contraceptions as well. One anthropologist by the name of Lionel Tiger wrote a book called The Decline of Males. And in it, he has a discussion of his observations of an experiment that he took with a set of monkeys. His belief was that the introduction of chemical contraception, men no longer had a confident knowing that their baby was their baby. And he wanted to know why. So he had a theory, what he wanted to test out, that hormonal contraceptions were a part of that. So he actually gathered a bunch of monkeys and went to an island where he let them colonize. There was only one male and a whole troop of female monkeys. The male monkey was named Austin, and he chose 3 mates out of all the other monkeys on the island, female monkeys on the island, and he treated them with absolute caring, faithfulness, and gentleness. And that was like his wives, I guess you could say, or his mates. Consistently, he behaved as such with them on this island. After many, many, many months, Lionel Tiger introduced contraceptions to 2 of the females that he had preferred. The minute he sensed that they were no longer fertile, he kicked them out of his compound area.
Wow.
And he only remained with the one female monkey. Months later, they introduced the chemical contraception to all the female monkeys on the island. Austin completely changed. He became confused and very turbulent in his behavior. He began to disregard any relational connection to the female monkeys, and if he connected with them at all, he raped them violently and was also observed doing excessive masturbation.
Oh my God.
Austin was in great turmoil as a male monkey. Over a few months, the hormones wore off in the bodies of the monkeys, and Austin went back to gather those 3 original female monkeys and was faithful to them again. And his violent behaviors ceased. He was gentle again.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So in observing the results of that in a monkey community, could we find parallels here in our human community? Are there things that you observe maybe?
I think Pope Paul VI, in Humani Vitae, predicted all of this without this scientific knowledge, that all of these kinds of things would start happening in our society.
Absolutely. It's listed. It's listed in that document
Yes.
that unfaithfulness would occur.
Violence
Conception.
toward women.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Violence toward women. Masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
And all kinds of other inordinate sexual behaviors. Absolutely.
Yes, and the thing is that, well, we're going to talk afterwards about what I do with the correct model system, that is a natural family planning method. And Dr. Hilgers, the creator of this method, he was inspired by Humane Vitae. And actually, the institute is called St. Paul VI Institute down in Omaha. And it's so funny because even nowadays, the information that you are giving it with a lot of scientific backup, right? But there is not a lot of credibility towards people that are saying what we're saying. Even doctors that are saying, no, contraception is no good. They are not very accepted by their own peers, their other doctors. And Dr. Hilgers said he was just like graduating from university. He's an OBGYN, and he asked a teacher at the university, like, I want to read Humane Vitae, this new encyclical. And the teachers, he always says this. He said that my teacher told me, why do you want to read that trash? And a Catholic person telling him this, and he always shares the story, and I think it's because he just wants to tell you right away what you're facing, like what you should expect. He's been on this for 50 years. Based on science and medicine, and doing so much good to women and family, because usually you receive women that are have been on contraception. That's the real world, and it's fine. Like we receive them and we help them out, and then they have their babies and they are happy. But even if he's been doing all of this good, he's been on a battlefield. And you can tell when he speaks in his eyes. He's now an older man, and he has, I don't know, like he really inspires you. But also you kind of like feel sad and bad and you want to cry when you see him, because it's so moving, it's so touching, and you kind of like feel like what he has gone through as a doctor, because I think
because of the battle.
Of the battle, you know. So yes, Humane Vitae, I think, is a treasure, and it was prophetic for sure.
Yes.
But what we're saying, I think, if people that are listening to us, we just should invite them to be brave and to understand that even people are gonna think different, but because of it's a contraculture. Information.
Yes.
So, and we should be aware of that, and just to know that, okay, we want to do some good by sharing this, but there's gonna be yeah, it's a fight, but it's a good fight, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it is really fascinating to see, and I think with the huge increase in the use of pornography. Pornography is often translated to actually just a source of masturbation. And so if we're talking about millions and millions of women on hormonal contraception, then that messes with the biological interception of men. I think they too may be physiologically experiencing that turmoil that Austin demonstrated in the experiment, and it's huge. It's huge. And another thing that I wanted to add to was, I thought it was really funny when you were talking about your dad and about Eddie, about how guys just know what's going on with the woman from this pheromone perspective. And they also said that when dads know that their spouse is pregnant, their whole system changes, so much so that they can even tell what kind of cry the baby has. They can tell if baby's cry is sad, lonely, hungry, scared, or just, trying to communicate something, and but the fathers can detect that, and that's part of that pheromone receptor communication. And so I find that fascinating.
Incredible, yes.
So anyways, this is where we find ourselves, right? In this kind of confused moment where our sexuality is being disturbed. And we didn't really realize why, right? Eddie pointed out some of those harmful effects, right, in terms of disease. And I pointed out just the relational effects. And I think it's kind of scary. But that leaves us to helping us know that even in this trouble, even in this confusion, we can still be victorious about the situation. Mm-hmm. We can still bring light to the situation. And science reveals to us how. And so I'm just very privileged and honored to be able to ask Hime to share about her ministry again, so that we can turn to our human intellect and remember the good news of our bodies. Mm-hmm. Hime, your message is a great cure to the sufferings that society has because of hormonal contraceptions. And so I pass the mic to you.
Thank you. So, yes, after all of what we have discussed in this show, the fertility, the Creighton fertility care system is a model that helps couples that are looking to know their fertility first, and besides that, maybe to heal some maybe hormonal imbalance, and they want to maybe avoid pregnancy for a while, which is fine also, because sometimes you're just not in the position to have a baby, even if you really love babies and you want to be pregnant, but it's not possible. But okay, if you know your fertility, you can decide that as a couple. And it's so beautiful to see couples, they start charting. And I don't know, just by charting, I've seen couples, infertility couples usually come to me. Just by charting, after a couple of months, their chart starts looking better without they haven't gone even to the doctor yet. And it's like, it's more regular. And it's just like, at the beginning, it was like irregular bleeding or like some stuff. Like I was like worried. I'm like, what's going on? Why are you bleeding? And then afterwards, I don't know, they become more, I don't know, relaxed. They see their chart, and they say, oh, I should start exercising maybe, or eating better, because they get worried, oh, my chart doesn't look so good. But if you just don't know what's going on, you never like think about it. Just by charting, you can see so much improvement in a woman's health and in the couple, because it's so nice. I all the time ask men to do the charting, as Ed was saying, because that's the only thing that they can do, because that's the reality. Because the method is based on checking your cervical mucus. So there is the women have to check their cervical mucus every time when they go to the bathroom, but they can talk at night, they can be together, and it's a nice bonding moment for the couples. And also the men also, they tend to be more in control of the chart, and they know better. Even like sometimes the girls are like, oh, I don't even remember, and the guy is answering the questions about the wife cycle. So it's so nice, because I think men have been left out also with contraception. It's just like,
right.
That's up to you. You take it, you don't take it, it's not my problem, it's your body. Like, not because they want to, but this is how the contraception works. But in this case, it's completely the other way. Also, what I've seen is that because if they are avoiding, for example, with that leads space for other kind of intimacy in couples, right? Because our human sexuality can be about also hugs, or just prepare dinner this night, or I'm gonna give you a present, or we make it very
Back
intentional.
rubs,
Yeah,
bathing
massage.
each other.
So many things, and we encourage this at the Creighton model system. So that's really amazing, and just I all the time give this example that the method also works to heal the women's body, and that first improves her life quality. And afterwards, she very likely is gonna get pregnant, because the method is the statistics are very promising, are very hopeful, as you were saying. It's more than 80% chances with the Creighton model system plus NAPRO technology. And I don't know if I told you, maybe I did, but my first couple is pregnant now. Yeah, like I have my first client pregnant. And it was a couple from Bolivia that they were bored last year with the pandemic. They were at home, so they were like, "Oh, let's start charting," and they charted, and they online, and they also had the NAPRO system, the doctors down in Mexico online, and of course their OBGYNs down in Bolivia assisting them. And they did the whole treatment, didn't get pregnant, were bored, quit on everything. And after a couple of months, now that they are pregnant. So it's because we wanted first to heal her body. And we found out things that in Bolivia, they were so surprised. They were like, why we never found out about this? How did your doctor in Mexico knew when to do the ultrasound? And so they found a cyst at the entrance of the cervix that nobody found. But because the doctor in Mexico asked to do it on her fertile days, so it was more open. Yeah. And they were like, "Oh, what is it? This witchcraft? Like, how did he know?" Like, so and she had the surgery. It was a very simple surgery. It was like 1 day surgery. On the same day she left the clinic, and now they are pregnant naturally because they stopped doing everything. So this is the hope that we want to share.
Amen.
The hormones that we give women, they are bioidentical hormones, so they are similar to the ones in your body, and we give you the hormones at the right moment. And what that makes is that it stabilizes your whole system, as when you eat the right food, or when you do exercise, or you sleep right. Then we give you these natural hormones that just helps your body to be more in balance. So that would be my invitation. If you know of a couple that would be interested in this, they don't want to take contraception, or they want to get pregnant.
That is so beautiful. And I hope that for those of you who are listening, you see hope. You see hope for yourself. If you've been on contraceptions and your body is just totally out of whack and you just want to be healthy again, this is definitely a solution for you. And for those of you who are having infertility problems, or you just want to conceive and you're wondering what's going on, please reach out to Jimena. She would love to serve you and bring solutions to your situation so you can have fullness of life. I'd like to thank my partner Jimena for co-hosting with me today, and also for our guest Ed Coda for joining us in an amazing conversation about our fertility, about the biological miracles of our body. And just want to say thanks, you guys.
God did a pretty darn good job of building us. If we would only accept that and embrace it and nourish it instead of fighting it, it would make things so much easier for all of us.
Amen. Thanks so much, you guys. Audience, we'd love for you to share our podcast with someone that you think this could help. You can find our podcast on our website, hamaliloco.org. You can find a way to support our ministry there, a way to request our services, and a way to listen to our YouTube videos as well. Thanks so much for joining us today. We love you, and we want you to remember the miracle that you are. I am Maile Aiu Domingo, and this is The Music Within. Aloha.